Hey everybody, it's that time again for Rahdo to run through some corrections. Sorry everybody, that's so Rahdo. I make goofs every once in a while, and every once in a while I make a little video like this to let you know the really egregious ones. Now once again, this is not going to be a video where I catalog all the times that I took 2 turns in a row for a player, or made a math error, or forgot to pay for some resource that I collected. Those are inconsequential. This is the one where I actually got rules wrong, and therefore you might have a slightly incorrect view of how to play the game if you're using these videos as a teaching aid, which again I always say you shouldn't do, but I know a lot of people do, so just wanted to throw a few corrections out there for you. Starting with Might and Magic Heroes. Actually, I made a couple of goofs, or 3 goofs on this one. First one, very, very dumb thing. I didn't notice that in the first week of play, in the very first round of play, you do not reveal a week card, a card that tells you what's going to happen during that game week. So actually, I didn't quite realize that makes the game 10 rounds. If you're playing the short game, that makes it 10 rounds long instead of 9. And in all honesty, I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's almost better. I mean, I think the game is better with 9 rounds instead of 10. And when Jen and I played, we actually liked the fact that there was an event card happening in the first week. But apparently, you're not supposed to do that, so FYI, no event card, no week card in the first week of gameplay. So that was a minor thing. Slightly bigger thing I goofed up on. At one point in the run through, I got on a ship at a harbor and started sailing, and then ended my turn out in the water. You can't do that. You have to be able, not only, you have to be able to end your turn having gotten off the ship. You can't spend the night on the ship. You have to get off, and I did not do that, so that was wrong. And also, as it turns out, to even be able to take a boat ride, you have to start your turn on the harbor, which I didn't. I kind of was halfway through my turn and I walked up, got on the boat, took one more step and stopped. That's not how it's supposed to work. It's a little bit more restrictive how those boats work. So FYI. And then finally, this is really probably the only significant, really big deal I goofed up on. The way in combat, every elite creature you have effectively has 2 hit points, and when they take 1 point of damage, you flip the tile and they go from being elite to being regular. And then if they take another point of damage, they're supposed to die. And what I was doing is, when I took multiple points of damage, I would subsequently, hey, I'll make this elite guy, I'll flip him, and then he becomes a regular guy. And then I'll have another elite guy, flip and become a regular guy. So nobody was dying. That's not the way it's supposed to work. If you take 3 points of damage to your orcs or whatever, your little goblin army, the first one, take the first damage goes to turn the guy from elite into regular, the second damage kills him, and then the third damage takes the next elite guy and turns him into a regular. So combat is a little bit more deadly than I thought. So FYI, that's a fairly significant change. I had that wrong. Still, I don't think it affects the quality of the run through. You still have a pretty good idea, but now you know combat is even harsher and more deadly than I presented it. Anyway, so that was it for Might and Magic Heroes. Moving on to A Study in Emerald. Just one goof of note, and and actually I almost didn't mention because viewers, you could see quite easily. At one point, I held up to the camera really close so everybody could read it. The card that said, everybody starts with an assassination card in their starting deck. This is a deck builder game, and so I held up the card saying, "Look, this is the assassination card. It clearly says I can assassinate agents or royalty," and it also very clearly at that point says you can only use this once in the game, and you must remove it from the game after it's been played. And I didn't do that. I ended up using that assassination card 2 times in that run through, and that was totally wrong. By being able to do that, it really kind of undercuts the value of agents. Agents are much more important because you yourself only get to initiate 1 assassination. If you want to do more assassinations, you got to get more agents. So that was a very important thing. And again, so dumb, because it says right there on the card. I can't even blame the rules. I was just an idiot. But anyway, still. So like I said, agents are even more valuable, and they're incredibly valuable anyway, but they're even more so because you can only get to that your own assassination once. Next up, Urban Sprawl. This was I'm really embarrassed about this one. Although this one I kind of blame the cards. It happened in my extended video where I actually made it I upgraded from a town to a city, at which point suddenly elections were held for, the chief of police and the district attorney and all these different roles that you can take. And then elections happened a few more times over the remainder of my explanation. And the thing is, the cards that represent these things, they clearly say that, you know, the winner of the election goes to whoever has the most industrial building, parenthesis S, implying that whoever has the most building or buildings. So that's how you read the card, and that's what you think it is, but that's not what it is. Those cards, or, you know, the tokens representing those things, almost are kind of lying to you, because it is not industrial buildings. It's industrial. Whoever has the most valuable industrial building on the board gets the, what is it? I think the union boss, you know, as an example. Whereas what I did in the game, I said whoever has the most valuable collection of industrial buildings, because I thought the parenthesis S. But anyway, that was wrong. It's just based on one. And the parenthesis S refers to tiebreakers. If both players are tied for most valuable industrial building, then whoever has the most industrial buildings will break the tie. That's a stupid way to put it on the card, so I'm only taking half the fall for this one, because I think, you remember I was reading in the video, I actually said, wait a minute, oh, it says parenthesis S, I guess that means, so the card misled me. But anyway, still, my mistake, FYI, it's a very, very important distinction. You know, again, just as an FYI. Moving on, oh, capitals. Boy, capitals. Almost every error I made in that game is because I was very dutifully trusting that the player aids that come with that game are correct. It turns out there's like 3 errors on those player aids. So, word of warning, if you get the capitals, which is an excellent game, Jen and I love it a lot, we're definitely keeping it. It might replace Urban Sprawl for us eventually. But if you're getting a copy of capitals, throw those player aids away. They are incredibly misleading, and because I now have to report, I think, my 3rd error I made based on those player aids. And this is a minor one. But the player aids make it pretty clear that you have to wait until the end of a round before you can move your intersection marker and expand your city in new directions. You can do that immediately. As soon as one of those things gets surrounded, you can move it immediately. So don't trust the player aid. Don't trust the player aid when it talks about the order, what you do at the end of a round. Don't trust the player aid. Don't trust the player aids, basically. Go to Board Game Geek and download new ones that people have made that will actually steer you right. Anyway, so that was a minor, another addition about the capitals. All right, next up, this one's silly. Walnut Grove. Please disregard my last corrections. This is a corrections to my previous corrections where I mentioned in Walnut Grove that I had the mechanism for determining turn order backwards. Because somebody pointed out, hey, you have it backwards. So I just trusted them, and because I always assume I made a mistake when somebody tells me I got it wrong. So in my last correction, I said, hey, I had it backwards. And when I said I was the first player, I was really the last player. Turns out in the video I was right. Somebody else pointed out that, hey look, the designer has actually gone on record and provided clarity because the rules are kind of vague, but they worded it very strangely. So how I determined player order in the video was correct after all. Hopefully this is the last time I have to talk about it. And really, it doesn't matter anyway, because you can determine it either way. It has no impact on gameplay, just as long as you're consistent. Just determine it the same every time and you're fine. But FYI, if you've been following my Walnut Grove, the way I determined turn order in the video was correct after all. Hooray for me. Okay, last game, Vecchio. This was a minor thing, but it's worth mentioning. You know, normally when you go to a town and you talk to the middleman in that town to get whatever resource you've come to that town for, you have to knock your little, your family member, you have to knock it over to indicate that he is spent and he can't do anything else. If you go to a town and you use your letter from the bishop to get whatever that town resource is, you do not have to knock your guy down because he didn't have to do any work. He just said, hey, here's my letter from the bishop, give me what I want. And so it doesn't take him any time and they don't get knocked out. I was knocking them down. That was incorrect. It's a minor thing, but just FYI. Although actually, since we're talking about Vecchio, another thing, this has nothing to do with rules, but a lot of people or some people I should say, took exception to the fact that I called it a pick up and deliver game. Because they say, oh, it's not really a pick up and deliver game, but I'm sorry, it is. At least, well, okay, I should add. Based on Jen's and my definition, because actually that's another thing. A lot of people said, hey, you say you don't like pick up and deliver games, and yet you like Mercator. That's pick up and deliver. I'm like, no, Mercator is not pick up and deliver. What is it? What's another one? Oh, Railways of the World. That is not a pick-up and deliver. I should clarify. Jen's and my definition of pick-up and delivery, and this is why we don't generally like pick-up and delivery games, is you have an avatar who has to literally move over a series of turns from space to space to space to space till they eventually move somewhere in the world, pick up an item, and then they have to do it again. They have to move space to space to space to space to take it somewhere else. To me and Jen, that is the definition of pick up and deliver. You literally move somewhere, you pick something up, you move someplace else, and you deliver it. A game like Mercator or Railways of the World, where items just basically teleport, you just say, hey, I build a route or I do whatever I do, and then boom, just the item goes from here to here. We like those games because that takes the tedium and boringness out of pick up and deliver. Pick up and deliver, for us, we just hate, just back and forth. We find it drudgery. And we definitely did in El Vecchio too. But but anyway, so that's our definition. Just to be clear, that is our definition of pick up and deliver, and that's why we call El Vecchio a pick up and deliver game. And it's why, as it turns out, we didn't particularly enjoy El Vecchio. Solid game if you like that kind of. And a lot of people do. A lot of people love Merchants of Venus or other pick up and deliver games, but Jen and I just generally don't like that. Actually, and speaking about this, I probably should mention this too. This has nothing to do with rules, but. Since people took exception to my definition of pick up and deliver, boy, when I did my top 10 worker placement things, that created a huge firestorm of responses from people saying that, that wasn't worker placement, that's not worker placement, that's not worker placement. So while I'm here, let me be clear. My personal definition of worker placement and why those particular 10 games made it onto my best worker placement games. Worker placement to me has nothing to do with whether, a lot of people say it's not worker placement if I cannot block you. If there's not some mechanism in the worker placement where I can use to prevent you from doing what you want, it can't be considered worker placement. To that I say poppycock, and I can point to the official definition on BoardGameGeek, which supports me, which is, while it's true, usually in a worker placement game there is some element of blockage, it is not a requirement. And as more and more time goes on, I think the definition is changing and evolving so that worker placement is really, at its heart, it is all about, if I've got a worker or collection of workers, whatever they are, whether they're ants or journeymen or beagles, whatever they might be. If I, over a series of turns, can place them onto the board to do a discrete action and then remove them from the board at a later date, to me, that's it. I have workers, I place them on the board, I take them off and place them again. That's worker placement. That's my full definition, and you can definitely feel free to agree or disagree, but it occurs to me, when I made that top 10, I should have led with my personal definition of worker placement. Just FYI. So just want to put that out there as a correction. In my top 10, I did not explain what I consider worker placement to be, and that's why games like Mirror Maze, and I forget which other ones people said weren't worker placement. To me, they're worker placement. I got these little ants, they're workers, I place them on the board, I do an action, and some people said, well, hey, by that definition, Carcassonne is a worker placement game. But as I said, Carcassonne is not a worker placement game because you do not put workers on the board to perform discrete actions, individual actions. You put them onto the board to do long-term in-game scoring stuff. Speaker Stot is an auction game. You don't put the workers on the board to do a discrete action. You do them as part of a greater auction, as a bidding thing. Brussels has true worker placement and adds an auction on top of it, but Speaker Stot is pure auction. So to me, it makes sense. You may disagree, and therefore you may find my top 10 worker placement games invalid, but FYI, that was my logic behind it. So, correction, I think I have the definition of worker placement correct, but my correction was I should have mentioned that in the video, and for that I apologize. Should have been more clear. Anyway, folks, that's it. A very long and kind of ranty, I apologize for that, corrections, but I will keep these coming in the future as I am prone to make mistakes. To err is Rahdo, and that's me, so I'm going to keep coming back and letting you know when I do in fact err. Alright folks, that's it. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you later. Have a very good day. Bye-bye.